Welcome back to the Trainwell podcast, inspiring you to move more, get stronger, and have fun. And we are going to have fun today because we are going to be talking about a topic that I have been wanting to talk about for quite some time because it's kind of trending right now, I would say. But the topic is like the opposite of trendy. It's longevity. So hopefully this topic, which is trending, will actually stick around for a while because I think it's such an important topic and honestly a breath of fresh air in the fitness industry to have a focus on longevity. And I think more and more people are getting on board. We're hearing more about it. Recently-ish, a book came out called Outlive by Peter Attia. And so many people were talking about this book. And I think we should investigate longevity. So we're going to do today, let's talk about movement. And then we're going to kind of break down all the other steps in the coming episodes of a longevity focused life, you could say, how to live with longevity in mind. So some hot tips.
Peter does a shorter version of his outline and with his book. And so what we're going to do, dear listeners, we're going to take kind of a series with this with 4 different big topics. And the first, as Darian mentioned, is exercise or movement practice. The second one is going to be to avoid this SAD diet, the SAD diet, the standard American diet. The third is going to be prioritize sleep and relaxation.
And stress management.
And stress, which goes into relaxation. And the last one will be see your doctor at least yearly. This is where we'll talk about blood work and what we can do to forecast our health. So let's kick it off with this movement practice. Dee, what you got?
Yeah, so I do want to start with what is different about a longevity-focused movement practice versus maybe something else you would do in the gym, like focusing on heavy weightlifting, which can be a part of a longevity movement practice, or focusing on like a more of a bodybuilder style movement practice. So I think the first thing to do is to really think about, because we're trying to go big picture here. We're trying to think about, okay, down the road in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, so on, when I'm 90, what do I want to be able to do? What do I want to be able to do that I currently don't do? And also, what do I want to be able to continue to do that I currently do and love? So this could be, and this is very individualized, very dependent on your current lifestyle and your goals in life. But for example, maybe you want to always be able to live independently. So what would that mean? Being able to carry your groceries in, being able to walk to the mailbox, being able to get up and down from the floor easily, walk up a flight of stairs. Maybe your house has the second floor and you need to be able to walk up and down the stairs. So those are like very basic things. Okay, when I'm 90, I want to be able to still be, living independently. But then you can also think about things like, I love to hike. I would never want to have to stop hiking. So I want to be able to have the balance and stability and strength to continue hiking into my older age. Or maybe you love to swim. You want to be able to continue swimming into your older age. Maybe you just love, playing with your grandchildren, or, maybe now it's your children, but you foresee, okay, one day I want to be able to play with my grandchildren too, or even my great grandchildren. And what do I have to do to be able to do that? For me personally, I feel like I just always want to be able to do pull-ups. I always want to be able to go and go on a hike or ride my bicycle, enjoy being outside, things like that. So that's how I'm going to prioritize. Okay, what do I need to do today to be able to do those things later? Joey, what are the things you want to be able to do?
I want to be fit. What does fit mean? Fitness literally is the ability to do a task. And so I want to be able to do whatever is needed of me. And us having our third kid here soon, I want to be able to get down and play with them and change diapers on the floor and get up without herniating a disc and go to the park and push Max on the swing till he vomits. That's stuff I want to do.
You want to change diapers? Ugh.
Well, that's going to be needed of me here in very, very shortly. And, Zoe's still in diapers too. So I want to be able to do, as a client, an old client of mine always said, he always says, people don't wear out, people rest out. And this
Mhm.
came from his grandpa. And so I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who I see at the park at the 70s, 80s, who's very athletic looking still, who's very able to keep up. I did the Grand Canyon not too long ago, and there was a whole pack of 80-year-olds hiking down and up, from Kai Bob down, Bright Angel up. It was amazing.
No,
I want to be that person.
80-year-olds.
And I want all my clients to, whenever I onboard somebody at Trainwell, I always tell them you have to start with the end in mind. Now, what is that end? That end is exactly what Atiya is talking about with his book, Outlive, is zoom out, look at yourself at 90, just like you said, and where do you want to be there? It's very unattractive. There's nothing sexy about it because people want this instant gratification and results now. But when you're the trainer and you're starting to sit down and design these programs, you're thinking, okay, what exercises are going to be the most joint friendly? What sequencing, which is order of exercise, is the best to make that person feel after that workout? And how am I going to get this person to consistently be successful for years on end? Because it's not a 6-month fix. It's not a year fix. It's a lifetime fix.
Yeah. And here's the thing is once you're, I can't remember the exact age, but once you're like in your 70s, I think, maybe earlier, your biggest risk of death is falling. And the reason for that is that if you fall, one, if you can't get off the floor, I mean, you're in rough shape. Two, if you injure yourself and your body doesn't recover quickly, you end up in a compromised position for quite a long time. If you need to stay in the hospital, your immune system is going to be compromised. You're going to be exposed to a lot more, infections, viruses, whatever it may be. And it can just really take you out. Like, let's say you get injured, you injure your hip. Now you're in recovery. Now you haven't moved and who knows how long for that recovery. And then at that age to get back into it, it's unlikely. That, I mean, just to be super realistic, it's unlikely once you're in that older age in your 60s, 70s that you're going to be able to bounce back from that injury.
So let's talk about falling real
So
quick, shall we?
okay. Well, but the point I'm getting at is like this is the reason to start doing this stuff right now. I mean, even if you're listening and you are older and you're healthy, we can start right now with the plan that works best for you. But even if Joey, like you're our age in our 30s or younger in your 20s, it seems far fetched to be like thinking about when you're 90, but like it all adds up to that point. It's all about injury prevention.
Totally. And listeners, if you've ever had an injury, raise your hand if you ever had an injury, right? The fitter you are, and there's my word fit again, the healthier you are, the stronger you are before you go into that event, the faster you get out of it, period. So let's talk about falling real quick. D, what do you say? Because we shouldn't be talking to just the older population. By the way, listen to our episode on older populations and should older populations strength train, which yes, they should. But this is for all ages, right? Because learning to fall, and Dan John, if I can just tell the listener to read one book in their life on training and wellness, it would be Intervention by Dan John. Please read that because he goes, you can make it to age 55 if you do two things. If you wear your seatbelt and you don't smoke, you do those two things, you'll make it to age 55 statistically. And he talks about, yes, the biggest injury and death occurrence or casualty is a fall. So he always says, learn to fall and recover, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. My favorite move of all time to do to help this is, what do you think, D? Exercise.
Turkish get ups.
Turkish get-ups. And it does not have to be the full form with a kettlebell. Matter of fact, Robert Hippler climbs 89. We would simply, he would come in and we would do get ups for 5 minutes straight. And he used so much body weight and so much assistance, but I didn't care. I wanted him to get off the floor and get down and tell me about his day. Get up, get it, do another rep. And we say, hey, what are you going to go grocery shopping for? Get up, get down. Hey, what'd you watch last night? It was just this innate skill. And he was amazed with the benefits of it. So learn how to fall and get up and recover.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what's interesting is like, I think people don't think about this a lot is when you're training, when you have a habit of training, it's not just that you're building strength. You are training your body to heal because exercise is catabolic. It's breaking down the muscles. And then your body has to then heal the muscle. Your body's literally practicing. Every time after you do a workout, it's practicing getting better. So I think what we could do now is kind of break down what are some of the movements you could put into a workout to start training for longevity today. So we want within the strength category, bucket, if you will, we definitely want to be training ground to standing movements. So you said a Turkish get up. That's one where you're lying flat on the ground. You're either holding a weight, but you don't have to be holding a weight. One arm is up, and you're essentially moving from ground to standing using just your two legs and one arm. So that's a great way to train that movement. There's a lot of other ways you can train that movement. You can do I don't even know exactly what these movements are called, but I've done a lot of like hip shifting type movements. So when you're doing your shin box movements, so this is where you're seated, feet out, knees up in front of you, and you drop your knees both to one side, squeeze your glutes to come up to your shins, move one leg forward to a lunge, and then stand up. So there's a lot of movements you can do to get from ground to standing. But I think the primary thing to do, I know it's hard listening to a podcast and understanding movement, is sign up with Trainwell and ask your trainer to give you some ground to standing movements because they will have a lot of options for you. And I think it's definitely should be a focus, any move where you're moving from the ground to standing.
I always consider this category in this strength bucket groundwork. And if you're serious, there's a great book out there, Pressing Reset by Tim Anderson, where he basically talks about just getting re-engaged with the ground, because how human beings learn how to move is through walking. And there's this progression of breathing. So even groundwork is just laying on the ground and breathing. Are you breathing appropriately? Then we go to rolling patterns. Then we go to half kneeling patterns. Then we go to kneeling, standing patterns, crawling patterns, cross crawl patterns. All this does is it reinforces us how to re-engage with the ground and learn how to buffer that and use it to our advantage to produce force, whether that's throwing a ball or playing pickleball, or whether you're doing some heavy Turkish get-ups. Getting reacquainted with the ground helps the brain and helps the body readjust to that fall. And again, that learning to recover.
Yeah, I love that kind of work. I'm not certified in that, but I did want to do a certification in those type of movement patterns. I digress. Okay, here's another really important strength move for longevity would be your carries. So a farmer carry, weights in either hand, walking, or if you don't have space to walk, high marching, weight in either hand. Suitcase carries, overhead carries, waiter walks, any version of your holding weight and moving across space, or at least holding weight and marching in place to replicate that movement is going to be so beneficial. Even rucking, where you're wearing the vest, the weighted vest, because what you're doing when you're doing these type of movements, depending on where you're holding the weight, but for a lot of them, you're training your grip strength, which we know is very important for longevity. You're training your grip strength, you're training your core strength, you're training your stability, especially if you're doing something like a suitcase carry where you're holding the weight on one side. Often in life, we're not holding exactly equal weights in both hands. We're holding, a heavy weight in one side and lighter on the other, or just weight in one side. So training that asymmetry is going to be really, really practical for everyday life? What else would you add to the strength bucket?
Oh, I love farmer carries. You hit it right in the head. I swear that is the best posture corrective you can do. Like not these band pull aparts or these external rotations for 3 sets of 10. Greg Cook talks about that. When you put heavy dumbbells in your hand and walk, that weight is literally trying to pull you forward or to one side if you're doing a single arm carry, suitcase carry. And so your body has to automatically, reflectively put you in that better position. If you try to walk with 2 heavy dumbbells in a bad posture, your spine is going to say, I'm going to find the most efficient way to move through space without any kind of risk for injury, alignment under load. What I would put in there is a deadlift. Okay. Now, learning how to, and what a deadlift is, people automatically think barbell and like, you know, a ton of weight on it and like 1,000 pound, the powerlift and deadlift. But a deadlift is simply the ability to pick up something off the floor. It doesn't have to be a weight. It can be a pillow. It can be a toy, as I'm having to do a lot of pick up toys. Or if you're playing with your grandkids, right, you're going to have to get down and maybe pick them up. So learning how to organize yourself in a good, efficient position, not too compromised, to pick it up. And you can do so many types of deadlifts. That's the one thing. It's not just a barbell deadlift. There's single leg deadlifts. There's straight leg deadlifts. There's offset deadlifts. Learning how to, again, brace and pick up something efficiently, learning how to organize, learning how to breathe, and learning how to move without compromise is your number one success for longevity. Because you're going to pick something up off the floor or you're going to unload that dishwasher. Learn how to deadlift.
Yeah, I agree. So like a hinge movement, we could have a fun phrase, but make it longevity, which is don't make it perfect. Like a barbell is probably like the easiest way to deadlift because it's a straight bar right in front of your body, but that is not necessarily going to always translate to your real life. How often are you going to be faced in real life with a perfectly loaded bar in front of you? But more often, you're going to be picking up an awkward object from the floor. So when you're training, you can think about that, like do the movement pattern, but make it longevity by making it slightly more awkward. So I kind of want to throw in like an overhead, so like some sort of overhead press into this strength bucket as well, because often in real life you do have to reach overhead, whether that's what you said, you're unloading the dishwasher and then you're reaching that plate into the cabinet above you, or you're going on a flight. If traveling is something you want to do long term, you need to be able to lift your luggage into the overhead compartment. So again, it comes back to thinking about what movements will I need to be able to live the life I want, and how does that translate to the gym? So again, we could do a barbell overhead press, but you could do a dumbbell overhead press. You could do a single arm overhead press. You could do incline bench press, which I think may be a little less practical, but still working the pushing and the shoulder mobility. And especially because this day and age that we live in, and we're all sitting at our desks in front of our computers, it becomes more and more important to train ourselves to reach overhead to keep our shoulders nice and mobile. Shoulder is a key area for injury, which I think is why it's so important to always work your shoulder strength and mobility.
Yeah, their overhead movements are great.
I know you're not a fan.
I am a fan, but you have to earn the right to go overhead. And if you're most people, right? Most people are going to have injuries in 3 places: their low backs, their shoulders, and their knees. And what I mean by earn the right to go overhead, I always love like my clients to get their overhead work from their Turkish get-ups and their carries and their crawling. Overhead pressing is amazing, but with a barbell, I don't like it because it's one, it's forcing both shoulders to work together. And as you press the bar up overhead, you're going to see, in this day and age with so much sitting and rounded posture, you're going to see compensation somewhere down the train. It's just unforgiving. You're much better off just doing a single arm overhead press, or even taking it to a slight different incline that you can press overhead without compromising any other position, especially lumbar. Because when you go overhead, you're going to want to arch your back a little bit. So I'm a huge fan of single arm presses, whether that's half kneeling, standing, or even from a kettlebell standing position to even an alternating kettlebell press. I don't think we need to do this heavy. Matter of fact, I think the lighter, the better for longevity. And what I mean by lighter, I just caution people of 1 rep maxes and 3 rep maxes. I think anywhere from 4 to 8 is a good solid rep base, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. What I would like to add to this is
Well,
this
I
whole
do. Wait 1 second. What you said about half kneeling, that's another way to make it longevity. Any upper body move, do it half kneeling and you've made it longevity.
totally,
So
yeah.
good for the core.
The number one thing with strength training is this. We should have mentioned this, is that can joints get in the proper positions to absorb and adapt to stress? That is the whole definition of strength training. Can joints get in the right positions to absorb and adapt to stress? So if I'm doing any kind of movement, let's just take this overhead press. If I know that I'm going to compensate somewhere, maybe I can do it from kneeling. Maybe I can do it from standing. Maybe I can do it on my back and I'm still pressing, right? So find that position without restriction to make sure that your body's efficiently navigating the path of least resistance. What I would like to add to this next segment here is the whole squatting pattern, right? And it can be, what I always start with people is on the floor and just can they rock back and forth in the quadruped position, like a frog stretch, so to speak. That is a
And
squatting pattern.
explain what the quadruped position is.
That's simply getting down on all fours. So tabletop position, hands and knees. And you're going to take your knees a little bit wider than your hip width, maybe even up to shoulder width if you can. And you're going to rock forward and rock back. And that's a squatting pattern. That's like a basis. That's like elementary school of squatting pattern. If you've had knee surgeries, if you had ACL reconstruction surgery, this is usually the entry point of the first squatting pattern you can do. It's not actually squatting to a box. It's not going against gravity. Then we work up to standing, and then we use assistance like a TRX, or you hold a pole and squat back. I'm not going to explain the whole progression of squatting, but we need to establish a firm foundation of, can people learn how to shift their hips back, squat in a chair at the very least at up to 90 degrees. You don't have to go super low. If you have the mobility, great. Go hip crease below parallel. That's totally fine. But earn the right to squat and stand, because you're going to do that every single day, that squatting pattern.
Yeah, and I know we're like kind of talking to beginners right now, but if you're not a beginner, I think the point is make sure that you're picking from every like main movement pattern, like a press, a pull, a squat, a deadlift, a lunge, a rotation. That's for everyone. And
And a carry.
if you're a beginner, earn the right. But do it. Work up to you can lift heavy, because lifting heavy, and Peter Attia talks about this in his book, is like you assume that there's going to be some uh, decline in your strength, in your muscle mass. So if you're at 90 and you want to be able to you lift X amount of weight, and you're 30 today, you got to be lifting heavy to be able to lift what you want to lift when you're 80, 90. You have to kind of do the math and work backwards. And like, if you're a beginner, cool, work up to heavy weights and keep lifting heavy for as long as you can, as long as you can do it well, right? As long as you can do it well. We do want people lifting
Definitely.
heavy, not 1 rep maxes, but like at a like pretty, like a 3 rep max, 5 rep max, not at max, but like heavy for 3 to 5 reps consistently, regularly.
And we should borrow Gray Cook's tagline here: moving well does not make you fit. I'll repeat that. Moving well does not make you fit. Moving well sets you up to move often and consistently, and moving often makes you fit.
That's a solid point. Okay, let's move into balance and stability. Wasn't that the other bucket? Another bucket we talked about?
Totally. And then cardiorespiratory.
Okay, cool. So with balance and stability, I think a lot of the things we already touched on, they're going to double up. They're going to relate. Half kneeling movements is working balance and stability. Anything where you're offset is working balance and stability. So a suitcase carry, for example, maybe you carry a waiter walk when you're holding the weight overhead. You're carrying one weight overhead, one weight down by your side, like a suitcase. you're offset. You're not doing the same thing on both sides. That's very important for balance and stability. Any of the crawling movements, bear crawls, lateral bear crawls, gorilla walks. Is that what they're called? Gorilla walks, gorilla crawls. Any one of those, those are going to be incredible for balance and stability. Palov presses is such good core stability where you're stretching a band or a cable out, but you're pressing your arms forward in front of you. Hard to explain. Google that, everybody. Palov presses, and you're trying to resist rotation. So good for stability. What else would you put in that category?
You pretty much hit all of it. And if you take a movement, play with the archetype of what you're doing. So explore all the variations. So let's just take a horizontal press, right? Go into a one arm press. Try it half off the bench. So for instance, you're laying on the bench, you scoot off to one side, so only half your body is on a bench, and you try that with two arms. You try that with one arm. You try that with alternating arms. I was just telling Darian one of my favorite finishers is where you do. We'll do that another time. We'll do that another time.
Okay,
But
cool.
if you're standing, try it split stance. Try it
Yeah.
on one leg. Try it on one knee. Explore those different archetypes of any kind of movement you're doing. But yes, for what is stability? Stability is basically learning how to be optimally organized. Right. The whole definition of core stability is, can the trunk position itself over the pelvis in any athletic activities? That's the definition of core stability. So basically, can you get into position to absorb and adapt to stress effectively?
Yeah, I mean, it could be as simple as practicing your standing, balancing on one foot. It can be that simple. Doing that with your eyes closed, doing that while moving your arms to increase, to progress it. But to make this point so clear, think about if you want to be able to hike. You're, especially here in Pennsylvania, all of our trails are rocks and roots. There's not one flat part of a trail. So you're going over this unstable surface constantly when you're hiking. Even if you're not hiking, think about just walking up and down off of a curb. I mean, that is an unstable surface in which you're going to be having to go from one foot to the other, um, at a different depth. And that requires balance and stability. So it really is very practical for real life to be able to do these things. So, Joey, why don't you take us down the road of cardio, given that's not my forte?
This should be a whole nother topic where we can talk about, that whole longevity, what is zone two. And I know we had Kaylin on and talked about running, right? But basically, let's talk about baseline numbers per week. The American College of Sports Medicine always recommends 150 minutes a week of low to moderate intensity exercise, or 75 minutes per week of a moderate to hard intensity per week. This is aerobic training. This is not strength training. So, what aerobic training is, or cardiovascular training, is something done consistently at least 30 minutes. It can be 20 minutes, but something redundant without a whole lot of load demanded on the body. So, circuit training is a form of cardiorespiratory training, but it has to be light enough that you can move through it continuously without having to stop for 2-3 minutes. So that's the definition. Now, Peter Attia talks about this 2 to 4 hour guideline of this zone 2. And he really talks about increasing your VO2 max. What is VO2 max? VO2 max is basically how much oxygen can I take at one time, and one piece, and one snapshot. And you can get it measured for sure. Matter of fact, one of my clients, I swear he was Peter Attia, but we were on a call with his exercise physiologist, and his ex-phys did a great job. His name's Jeremiah. He said, all I want you to worry about is keeping your lungs fit, your heart fit for a long time. And what he meant by that is make his workouts 30 to 60 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. But he loved to do pickleball. He loved to go swimming. He loved to go biking. So all that was included in his prescription. So the general rule is stick with those 150 minutes of low to moderate intensity, or 75 minutes of moderate to hard intensity.
Yeah, and then was there was a fourth bucket, which was mobility. Yeah, did you say that?
Oh, mobility. Yeah,
But
100%.
but honestly, again, there's so much overlap here. I actually think longevity training, like very specific longevity training, allows for so much variety and freedom in movement. Like you can do weird movements with longevity. You can be the person in the gym that's like looks a little. You're like you're doing something a little weird. But that's cool because you're doing something that's going to benefit you for the rest of your life. Um, with mobility, the reason it's different than stretching is stretching out a muscle. I mean, there's so many different types of stretching, but like holding a stretch is what people think about. Mobility is moving a joint through a full range of motion. It's mobile, it's movement. Um, but it's movement in a way where, again, it's not going to be a heavy load. The whole point of it is to move a joint through a full range of motion. So, like, if we're thinking about the shoulder, this could be like this could be your band pull aparts. This could be like your adductions, abductions with the band. This could be raises, front raises, lateral raises, reverse flies with a light load, eyes wise tees, things like that. Um, all going to be great for shoulder mobility. But again, the crawls. If we are doing crawls, you're doing shoulder mobility, you're doing hip mobility. If you're doing even farmer care, any sort of carry, you're doing amazing like posture work and mobility. What else would you put in a mobility category that like people should have like as a go-to?
I always think people should get screened first and foremost. What I mean by screened is check your ankles, check your hips, check your thoracic, and check your shoulders. And we should do a whole nother thing on screening, and so people can actually check their measurements, because I know people listening are like, I wonder what my ankles are, I wonder how my hips are, one side or the other. But what I think people should simply be able to do is, can they get in a good deep squat position with assistance or without assistance? Can they do an overhead squat? Because that's full joint expression in one snapshot there. And so if you're listening, if you have a doorknob at your house, which I'm sure you do, grab the doorknob. So open the door, grab it on each side, and set up your feet up comfortably. And your width is totally anatomy driven. So it could be a little bit wider than hips. It can be hip width apart. It could be shoulder width apart. But toes straight forward up to about 30, 45 degrees out, and see if you can get down holding that doorknob as much as you want. Can you get down and up, full joint expression? Let's see if that's doable.
Yeah, this was all. I feel like we hit every bucket. I should have said this at the beginning. I have a challenge for people. Well, before we announce the challenge, Joey, do we need to cover anything else in terms of movement?
Oh, you know me. There's going to be about 1,000 ideas that pop up. Listeners, stay tuned, because we're coming up with an episode that'll eventually be the title. I forget what the title is. Something about what Joey would have said.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So for the listener, almost every episode we do, afterwards, Joey says to me, "Oh, I should have said blank. Oh, I forgot to say blank." And I said, "Joey, make a list, and we'll do a whole episode on everything you wish you would have said." So don't worry if he doesn't think of it now, he'll surely think of it as soon as we're done recording, and we will eventually get that thought to you.
I'm glad this is a series, because we may have to revisit previous sections. I think our next episode will be on either stress management and relaxation, or maybe we do the standard American diet. Which one do you think?
I mean, I think either is great, but I know you have you like to put a huge focus on nutrition. So why don't we do that next? And I know that's also really, top of mind for a lot of people. So we could do that next. Then we'll do stress management. Then we'll talk about seeing your doctor. But here's the challenge. This is what I want to challenge people to do. A lot of times, often we're thinking about fitness as a way to change our bodies aesthetically. And we did a whole episode on body image. Um, Definitely listen to that because that's going to be so important. And I know that people sometimes come to fitness because they have this desire to change their body, and it's it makes sense. I think there's a lot of pain around if you don't look the way you want to look. But I'd like to challenge everybody because I know sometimes this longevity stuff, it's not like the sexy, cool, exciting thing to talk about. We're talking about being 90, but it starts now. if you want to feel good then and live your fullest life then and enjoy your retirement, enjoy your family and your relationships, all the things that really matter, you have to start now to prepare for then. So my challenge to everyone is, for 30 days, put aside your aesthetic goals and do a cycle of just longevity work and see how you feel and see what comes out of that. Just set it aside. Any idea of like, oh, I really want to lose weight. I really want to tone my belly. I want to have the abs. I'm not saying that's a wrong goal, but I wonder what would happen if you could just focus on stability, strength, balance, mobility, and thinking big picture about how you want to live. What is a life well lived?
Cardiovascular.
Oh, I always forget that one. Cardio. Okay, fine. Do it. I'll do it. I'll do 30 days. I'll do this challenge too, and I'll focus more on cardio and
There you go.
cardiovascular health.
Yeah. One last point, I guess, before we finish up here is don't make it all about the body. Make it about the mind and changing your mindset and changing the way you approach things. You need to shape your mind because that is your strongest muscle, period.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for listening. Stay tuned for our following 3 episodes in which we're going to dive into longevity even more from different aspects. Also, sign up for Trainwell. 14 days free. Click the link in the show notes. Meet your very own personal trainer. Tell them you want a longevity program, and they'll be able to make something that's just right for you.
We love you guys. Talk to you next time.